these are the 10-minute presentations, and here are the instructions that go with it. You've been called back by the company that you gave your full 25-minute presentation to for a second visit. We've asked you to speak only about the ethical aspects of the problem and explain why your solution successfully handles any ethical issues. You'll have 10 minutes, no Q&A, no slides, no video, and you probably don't want to have more than 2 people do this presentation, possibly 3. And then I guess I'm the senior judge, so I will try to give you feedback after the presentations. But let me just set up the timer. I'll try to let you know when there's a 2-minute warning. Bear with me a second. Okay. So Tiichám, whenever you're ready, you can start.
Okay. Thank you everyone for joining. We are Tiichám partners. So today, it's imperative that we confront a pressing issue that affects us all, climate change. However, our discussion will focus on a critical aspect often overlooked, the disproportionate impact of climate change on vulnerable and marginalized communities. Imagine for a moment the face of climate change. It's not just melting ice caps or rising sea levels. It's the faces of those who bear the burns of its consequences, the marginalized and the vulnerable population around the world. Climate justice is the lens through which we must view this issue. It's about the fairness, equity, and ensuring that all people, regardless of their socioeconomic status or background, have a voice and are protected from the adverse effect of climate change. Let me paint you a picture of reality. In low-income urban neighborhoods, their infrastructure is lacking, extreme heat waves becomes deadly. People unable to afford air conditioning or proper housing succumb to heat-related illness. It's not just discomfort, it's a matter of life or death. Coastal communities, especially in developing countries, face an existential threat. Rising sea levels, intensified storms, and coastal erosion threaten their homes, their livelihoods, and their very existence. For them, climate change isn't a distant threat, it's a daily reality, forcing them to make impossible choices between staying and risking their lives or leaving everything behind. And what about indigenous communities, the guardians of our planet biodiversity? They face displacement as their ancestral lands become uninhabitable due to changing weather patterns. Their way of life, deeply intertwined with the natural world, is under threat. It's not just about losing land, it's about losing culture, identity, and heritage. The impact of climate change on vulnerable communities extend beyond environmental concerns. It aggravates existing inequalities, perpetuates cycle of poverty, and threatens human rights. It's a social justice issue as much as an environmental one. But amidst these challenges, there is hope. We have the power to make a difference. We can't afford to stand idly by while our fellow human beings suffer. We must take action, bold and decisive action, to address climate justice. This means prioritizing the needs of vulnerable communities in our policies and decision-making processes. It means empowering communities to participate in climate action, ensuring that their voices are heard and their rights respected. It means investing in sustainable development initiatives that enhances resilience and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. It's not just about local action, it's about global solidarity. Climate change is a global issue that requires collective action. Developed nations must fulfill their obligation under international agreements like the Paris Agreement, providing support and assistance to developing countries in their adaptation efforts. In conclusion, climate justice is not a luxury, it's a necessity. It's about recognizing our shared humanity, our shared responsibility to protect the most vulnerable among us. As we strive to build a more sustainable and equitable world, let us remember that our actions today will shape the world of tomorrow for better and for worse. I will pass it along to Sarah.
Thank you, John V. I would like to focus on the importance of empowering Indigenous voices. So first, I want to begin by providing with a contrast between international governance when considering the role of Indigenous peoples related to climate solutions. So one example is Nepal. It's a country that's particularly vulnerable to extreme weather events due to their high peaks and mountain valleys. You might remember the earthquake in 2015 or their two extreme landslides and flooding disasters in the spring and fall of 2021. While this most recent experience has inspired the country to kick off innumerable projects to combat climate change, unfortunately, our research shows that none of these projects amplify the voices and knowledge of their 8.4 million Indigenous people. In fact, an article published by Amnesty International in the fall of 2021 bore the grim title, Nepal, Indigenous Peoples, the Silent Victim of the Country's Conservation Success Story. So this article discusses the forcible and violent evictions of Indigenous peoples from their native lands, even as recently as 2020. This action directly contradicts research conducted by the World Bank, which showed a strong correlation between Indigenous presence and natural ecosystem protection. In contrast to this, our company had the opportunity to attend an interview with Chief Borrell from the Virgin Islands and have learned that he and many other Indigenous leaders have been working closely with the UN on climate issues. Himself and this coalition even helped to write the UN's SDGs, which inspire so many of us today. So that these Indigenous leaders breathe environmental conservation at every opportunity speaks to the power of their passion for protecting Earth's natural resources. An extensive study done by the World Bank concluded that Indigenous peoples are the forgotten partners in biodiversity conservation, and their report makes the case for the immediate incorporation into all forms of development interventions that have to do with their land resources and environment. We also have found this to be vital. So one issue of concern, which comes from a study from the MDPI, shows that young Indigenous people in Nepal have a falling opinion of their ancestral farming practices. This was in their study attributed to low respect for Indigenous voices seen in the country. However, our research shows that important knowledge about natural resources, like Indian black soil in the Amazon or oyster reefs in Australia, have been passed down through generations and are useful for protecting biodiversity and even capturing carbon from the atmosphere. So without companies like Tiichám Partners and others amplifying Indigenous voices, we risk the critical knowledge of these Indigenous peoples, which they have passed down through so many generations, being passed into obsolescence and being forgotten, and then setting human discovery back thousands of years. So this is why we think it's very important that we work together with Indigenous peoples as we formulate our solutions for the environment. Thank you.
I'll hold off on giving feedback until I can give feedback to everybody in the room so that nobody has an advantage over anybody else of hearing everybody's feedback one at a time. So I think next up on the schedule is Green Horizon Consulting. And bear with me while I get my timer ready. So you tell me when you're ready, and then who's going to go?
Yeah, we're ready to go.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
The clock has started.
Hello and good morning to the Kavanagh Council. Thank you for taking the time to listen to our Waste to Watts pitch last week on the benefit of expanding the utilization of your waste to energy plants in order to accommodate the rising demand of EV charging stations. And thank you for inviting us back again to expand on the ethical issues that drive our mission at Green Horizon Consulting. As a reminder, our Waste to Watts mission aims to market your repurposed energy as electricity for EV charging stations to fuel sustainable transportation and empower local community members to be active agents of change. The work that you do currently is truly inspiring as you lead the world in waste to energy systems, and we hope that with this idea, we can collaborate to create a cleaner, more energy efficient landscape together. We want to take this time, though, to speak more directly about what is at the center of both our work and yours, which is, of course, the people. In our current climate, landfills emit 41% of methane just in the state of California, the largest sources of methane released into the atmosphere. In fact, NASA scientists have identified landfills as super emitters of methane, a greenhouse gas that is 84 times more potent of a climate warming gas than CO2. This underscores the importance of the work that you are currently doing, and it demonstrates further the need to expand your global presence to aid in reducing these landfills. But beyond combating the climate crisis, the need for Kavanagh to expand operations is necessary to create safer, cleaner communities. Minority and low-income neighborhoods are disproportionately targeted by the locations of hazardous waste sites and other polluting facilities. As an LA native myself who grew up near the Whittier landfill, I can attest to the vast presence of these facilities throughout Southern California, also including cities such as San Clemente, Montebello, and Azusa, in which you all have operating plants in, putting millions of people at risk. Environmental racism is a serious issue today, subjecting millions of people of color and low-income communities to environmental hazards. From waste dumping to industrial pollutants, minorities face exposure to emissions and toxins disproportionately more than high-income households. This continuous inhalation of methane can also cause health impacts such as asthma, nausea, cancer, and even death in these communities. And in order to address these issues plaguing our cities, while fulfilling your commitment to leading environmental innovation, it is imperative to expand the utilization of your revolutionary waste-to-energy model in order to fuel EV charging stations to have a direct impact on the reduction of landfills for these communities. I will now pass it on to Mariana, who will get further into the benefits of this plan.
Thank you, Alisa. So our solution encourages a shift towards a circular economy model where resources are used effectively, waste is minimized, and materials can be recycled or repurposed whenever possible. By using your already existing waste-to-energy plan and now adding the portion of powering electric vehicle charging stations, where you are effectively demonstrating a commitment to reducing resource depletion and minimizing environmental harm. Investing in our solution facilitates a shift away from fossil fuels, which is ethical due to several factors. First, it aligns with your mission and values to ensure that no waste is ever wasted and mitigate the adverse effects of climate change, safeguarding the well-being of future and current generations as well. Second, fossil fuel emissions transcend national borders and affect communities all around the world. So by taking action to mitigate climate change and global warming and its associated impacts by investing in renewable energy and supporting initiatives like Waste to Watts, you can contribute to global efforts to combat climate change and promote a sustainable future for all. Thirdly, this investment reflects a commitment with social responsibility by prioritizing health and welfare of communities disproportionately affected by pollution and environmental injustices, just as Alisa just explained to us. Customers are increasingly more attracted to companies that prioritize sustainability and ethical practices. So by investing in clean energy infrastructure and advocating for responsible resource management, Covana is positioning itself as a leader in this space. Finally, by embracing clean energy alternatives, you will be contributing to the creation of sustainable and resilient economies, fostering innovation, job creation, and economic growth while also reducing our vulnerability as a society to the fossil fuel markets and finite resources. Now, my colleague Grace will tell us more about how you can contribute to the United Nations Sustainable Cities goal and how we can do well by doing good.
Thanks, Mariana. What we do today has a ripple effect on our planet's future. The Waste to Watts plan directly affects urban life and promotes sustainable urban development. We want to help California reach its 2035 sustainability goals and make sure that all Californians have equal and increased access to charge their electric vehicles to make the shift as smooth as possible. Using Covanta's waste-to-energy process, we will help contribute to a more efficient waste management system and decrease pollution in cities and communities. This new energy then fuels sustainable transportation, creating a circular system in which waste gives back to the people rather than building up. While being reactive to the waste management crisis, we are able to be proactive in the transportation sector. Our solution is tailored to efficiently address multiple objections with one single action. Waste to Watts works in tandem with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, specifically SDG 11, to make cities and human developments inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. We are helping to achieve this goal by providing people with access to cleaner streets and communities and clean transportation, being reactive to one issue and proactive until neither are a problem anymore. Although our plan focuses in California, it has the potential to scale outside of the states, even across the country and globally. With the success in just one of Covanta's already established plans, they can implement Waste to Watts in their other facilities across the United States. Uniquely, our plan allows for collaboration between companies and everyday people. Green Horizon Consulting is dedicated to serving all stakeholders. Waste to Watts especially encourages Covanta to collaborate with companies already in the transportation sector to gain insight on how the market works and to front some of the initial investment costs. Not only this, but Covanta will also be working with everyday people to clean up public spaces and communities, and then again, fueling transportation for people like you and me. By putting people at the center of change, they can be a part of initiating this transformation, making them more interested in sustainability, leading to more activism and more awareness for our environment throughout the environment. You are already a leader in regenerative waste management, and we would like to expand your portfolio to sustainable transportation to take you to the next level. I urge you to consider Waste to Watts to advance SDG 11 and the current landscape of cities, decreasing pollution and increasing sustainable transportation. By making this commitment, we are not only investing in our planet's well-being, but also in the prosperity and resilience of generations to come. Thank you for considering this transition towards a brighter, cleaner future.
Good, thank you. We will move on to the next team. Bear with me 1 second, I've got to reset the timer. Okay, so I think up next is MATRI. Is that right?
Yeah, thank you, Barney.
Okay, whenever you're ready.
First of all, I would like to thank you and all the judges for this opportunity to revisit the ethical implications of stubble burning and our proposed solutions, and also the feedback that we received earlier. We stand here not merely as advocates for change, but as guardians of a legacy that we shall pass on to the generations that follow. From stubble to sustainability, we propose solutions for a problem that has arisen out of a method that is steeped in tradition, coming from a country of 1.4 billion population, out of which around 60% of the population depending directly or indirectly on agriculture. The problem of stubble burning poses an ethical dilemma that goes beyond environmental degradation. It strikes at the heart of human dignity and health. For example, if we scrutinize this problem of stubble burning from the utilitarian perspective, we find that while burning may offer immediate ease to the farmers, the resulting air pollution inflicts a toll on millions. This contradiction challenges us to innovate. Thus, our proposal to transform stubble into biochar and bioenergy not only mitigates harm, but maximizes benefits across communities. We are also bound by a duty of care towards our environment and fellow beings. Stubble burning breaches this duty, as it neglects the rights of individuals to clean air and a healthy life. Conversely, our initiative holds these rights, grounding our actions in moral absolutes rather than outcomes alone. We also need to act according to virtues of compassion, stewardship, and justice. When farmers are driven to burn stubble, it is not out of malevolence, but necessity. Our proposal seeks to empower these custodians of the land with viable alternatives, aligning agricultural practices with the virtues that sustain ethical living. We recognize the interdependence of individuals within communities. The practice of stubble burning, though a collective action, has individual consequences, disproportionately affecting the most vulnerable. Our strategy for sustainable agriculture and generation of biofuel out of agricultural waste fosters a network of care wherein farmers are supported and the health of the community is safeguarded. Espousing equality and the fair distribution of opportunities, we see that stubble burning is a symptom of inequity. By providing farmers with the means to convert waste to wealth, we strive to level the playing field, offering every individual the chance to thrive. Furthermore, in the context of environmental ethics, we acknowledge our moral obligation to non-human life and future generations. Our proposal embodies this commitment, opting for renewable energy solutions that reduce our carbon footprint and preserve the planet's vitality. However, the ethical dimensions of this problem are not merely abstract concepts, they translate into tangible consequences. The premature deaths, the healthcare costs burdening the economy, and the loss of biodiversity are real and measurable. They serve as stark reminders of the urgent need for ethical deliberation and action. Now I would like to pass on to my fellow team member Ashish.
Thank you, Nilesh. Hope I'm audible. Checking on and continuing on the ethical problems at large, the health impacts are very varied. Stubble burning releases harmful pollutants into the air, including particulate matter 10 and PM 2.5, and carbon monoxide CO, which contributes to severe air pollution. The inhalation of these pollutants leads to respiratory illnesses such as asthma, bronchitis, and cardiovascular diseases, significantly impacting public health as well. Studies have linked stubble burning to increased mortality rate, like Nilesh has said, and reduced life expectancy among affected populations. Also, with the environmental degradation, the consequences of stubble burning are far-reaching. Air pollution not only affects human health, but also contributes to soil degradation, reducing soil fertility and nutrient content. The deposition of ash from burning stubble alters the soil pH levels, affecting crop productivity. Moreover, the release of pollutants into the atmosphere contributes to water and air pollution, affecting ecosystems and wildlife. Moving on to the next one of the ethical challenges is the climate change itself. Stubble burning is a major contributor to greenhouse emissions, releasing carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide into the atmosphere. These gases are potent contributors to global warming and climate change. The ethical dilemma arises from the disproportionate impact of climate change on some vulnerable populations, exacerbating existing socioeconomic disparities and jeopardizing future generations' well-being. What I mean here is, why are some people subjected to very populated air while some can breathe freely? The solution here that we suggest is converting stubble into ethanol and biogas. Ethanol can be produced from agricultural residues, including stubble, through biochemical processes such as fermentation and distillation. Stubble-derived ethanol is a renewable biofuel that can be blended with gasoline to reduce fossil fuel consumption and greenhouse gas emissions in transportation. The conversion of stubble into ethanol not only mitigates air pollution, but also promotes energy independence and reduces reliance on imported fossil fuels. Moving on to biogas generation, with this, anaerobic digestion of stubble produces biogas, primarily composed of methane, which can be used for cooking, electricity generation, and heating. Biogas is a clean and renewable energy source that reduces reliance on traditional fossil fuels and minimizes greenhouse gas emissions. By using stubble for biogas production, farmers can generate additional improvement in their income while contributing to sustainable energy production. Moving on, the benefits of ethanol and biogas conversion would be improved air quality, because the transition from stubble burning into ethanol and biogas significantly improves the air quality by reducing emissions of particulate matter and greenhouse gases. Imagine what goes through a farmer ethically inside his mind. He knows that burning the stubble will kill his own family members, greater than the population of Delhi. Yet he still does that. With this transition, cleaner air promotes public health, reducing respiratory illnesses and enhancing overall well-being in affected communities.
You have 2
Moving
minutes
on
to
to
go.
the climate mitigation, ethanol and biogas derived from stubble have lower carbon footprints compared to conventional fossil fuels as well. The widespread adoption of these renewable fuels contributes to climate mitigation efforts, aligning with India's commitments under the Paris Agreement and global sustainability goals. Speaking about the global sustainability goals, sustainable agriculture is something that comes into mind. Utilizing crop residues for ethanol and biogas production promotes sustainable agriculture practices. Farmers benefit economically by selling their stubble for biofuel. There is also increased cost savings and investment opportunities in renewable energy. Some of the challenges that come are infrastructure development and policy support. Besides that, this is also a cultural issue where you have to engage the community. In conclusion, the ethical problems associated with stubble burning in India demand urgent action and innovative solutions. Our company MATRI has come up with one. It is not easy, but it is possible. By doing this, let us at least save one life so that we can tell our future generations that we tried. And that's all we want. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, I'll hold off on providing feedback until everybody has presented in this session. So I think next up is Bright Light Consulting. And let me reset the timer. This is the hard part. Okay, go.
Thanks so much for welcoming us back today, Apple Board of Directors. As consultants hired to provide sustainability-focused recommendations for you, we had a great conversation yesterday about the effects of e-waste around the globe and the legal and business ramifications that you can face if you do not address these ethical concerns regarding your closed ecosystem. Now, we know that there are a lot of complex considerations regarding Apple's ethical role in the global e-waste crisis, particularly as it pertains to Ghana. And we're so happy to take a deeper look into this today. Mark, you looked at the ethical issues surrounding how Apple's closed ecosystem is adding to the e-waste problem. Can you share some more about it?
Absolutely. Let's take a closer look at the ethics of consumer electronics. There's a conflict of rights happening between Apple and your consumers. On the one hand, your closed ecosystem and repair restrictions are necessary to ensure that the highest standards of safety, security, and performance are maintained, while also protecting your intellectual property rights. But on the other hand, it's raising concerns on competitive practices and monopolistic control. Stephen, can you explain how Apple's closed ecosystem drives consumerism?
Yeah, so Apple, your highly integrated ecosystem, although wonderful for users, has a negative downside for society and the planet. We also know that while Apple is a leader in tech advancements and is releasing the newest and latest products, unfortunately, you also play a passive role in this e-waste issue. So this passive behavior can be seen in things like your annual product launches, feature incentives, and through a large marketing push to make it easier to trade in a phone rather than get it repaired. So in 2023 alone, Apple, you sold 235 million iPhones globally, and as a result, 130 million phones were thrown away.
Now, this is a known issue. That's why customers and right to repair advocates argue that once a product is purchased, the owner should have the freedom to repair it through the service provider of their choice. Smartphones have become such an essential part of day-to-day life that it's almost unfathomable for it to be controlled so tightly by a single company, no matter how forward-thinking that this company might be. Allowing open access to repair and service smartphones provides immense opportunity for small businesses and people around the world, which will drive repair costs down. With an open repair community, it leaves room for more businesses to innovate new methods and practices to better repair phones, keeping them in operation longer. At the end of the day, why wouldn't you want your phones to have the longest possible life and help the greatest number of people? Mark, let's talk about the e-waste a little bit more.
Sure. So in many cases, the burden of waste disposal is falling disproportionately on marginalized communities, highlighting existing inequalities. At the core of the e-waste problem lies a complex ethical dilemma: the obligation of developed societies and powerful corporations to prevent harm and support the welfare of less privileged communities and the environment. However, at the same time, informal e-waste economies have emerged in these developing countries whose locals now rely on these waste streams for their livelihood. So any solutions needs to also consider the impact on these informal economies and finding alternate ways to allow these people to safely provide for themselves and their families. The mountains of discarded tech in Ghana are not just heaps of trash, they also symbolize a moral test. Is it defensible for the developed world to reap the benefits of technology while outsourcing the hazards?
Yeah, that's a question we all need to ask ourselves as consumers of electronics. And for you, Apple, as a large company making them, we must scrutinize the tangible impacts of our actions. So while effects have been seen in Thailand and China, Ghana feels the brunt as they get 60% of the world's electronic waste and it's dumped in their country. So this is where you can see the tangible harm that Mark was talking about. So there's that informal sector handling the waste epidemic, often involving children being employed in dangerous recycling operations. The environment suffers from toxins damaging the soils, air, and water. And the communities face poor living conditions and strained healthcare challenges as a direct result. But there's potential for good. A commitment to sustainable practices can revitalize industries, support economic growth, and ensure decent work, aligning with the UN's SDGs. But what does this have to do with you, you might ask, right? You're not the one shipping e-waste to Africa.
Well, as an influential market leader, consumers are beginning to expect more from corporations, especially Gen Z and Gen Alpha, who make up 22% of the global population. They're very eco-conscious, and losing them would be a large share of your market. Apple, you've already made a great impact so far on many of the SDGs with initiatives aimed at incorporating recycled materials and targeting carbon neutral energy usage in your facilities. And while we recognize that you've already launched various iPhone recycling and right to repair initiatives, we have noticed that there are a few gaps and we really want to fix these. For example, your current iPhone recycling program focuses on recovering raw materials and minerals from phones, but many of the phones and their component parts might still actually be in good working condition. So what this is doing is effectively wasting the energy and effort that went into the production, and it does nothing to prolong the life of iPhones.
So what would we suggest as the first commitment to sustainable practice? Well, the right to repair can foster an ethical framework for your operations. Let's first consider your current production methods, the life cycle of iPhones, and the end-of-life policies. Are they defensible on ethical grounds? While they were at one time, consumers are wanting more from companies and from you. The repairable design that we suggested can decrease waste, amplify device longevity, and empower consumers. This stands in a stark contrast to a closed ecosystem approach, which instead leads to accelerated obsolescence and build on defensive design. I want you to consider that the pursuit of profits without consideration of waste reflects a short-sighted understanding of wealth generation. You must think about social well-being, environmental sustainability, and ethical integrity. By prioritizing profits over responsible use and management of resources, we compromise our ethical commitments and undermine the foundation of a just and sustainable society.
And it's not just your customers you need to worry about. Legal pressures from investors and governments have also been forcing Apple's compliance with growing consumer rights and sustainability lawsuits and legislation. So these consumer rights lawsuits have cost Apple nearly $1.5 billion, and more of these types of lawsuits are already in progress. If Apple is not the industry leader in these types of consumer rights initiatives, then they will have no hand in crafting those regulations, which could cost Apple much more in the long run. So what do we do about this?
Well, once we can be sure that Apple has addressed the legal issues, the ethical acceptability of embracing a right to repair approach becomes crystal clear. It propels you towards a circular economy, reducing waste, supporting responsible consumption, and championing the longevity of your products. This goes beyond compliance. It's about Apple leading towards a future where technology and sustainability go hand in hand.
So the key initiative that we recommend is to prioritize repairability to extend the iPhone lifespan, which will ultimately reduce the amount of electronic waste generated.
You have 2 minutes. 2 minutes left.
Thank you. At the same time, we recommend that Apple reduce barriers to repair by revamping the independent repair program. This will ensure that all consumers can access affordable repairs to keep their Apple products running without sacrificing performance for years to come. Apple can assert its position as a market leader by championing corporate responsibility efforts to meet the expectations of consumers, investors, and government bodies alike.
So additionally, we propose a groundbreaking partnership with an African PRO. So what is a PRO? It's Producer Responsibility Organization, and we suggest EPRON to help combat e-waste in Africa. This partnership would leverage their expertise in the local communities and alongside Apple's materials R&D team To help you, it would help safely disassemble and recycle e-waste. This would be a true two-way partnership, fostering mutual learning and impactful actions. We know you recognize the importance of supporting communities affected by the growing e-waste economy, and this would underscore Apple's commitment to creating positive change together. These initiatives embody your dedication to innovation with purpose and responsible global stewardship.
While we know the path ahead is challenging, it is filled with opportunity. We stand at a pivotal point where your decisions today can cement Apple's reputation tomorrow, which has the possibility to be as a leader, not only in technology, but in global corporate ethics. Thank you again for having us back here today. Hopefully that clarifies any questions that you had on the ethical considerations. And please do let us know if there's anything you'd like to discuss further, and we can set up another meeting.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good. Thank you very much. And up next is Veins of Life. So just, again, I will let you know when you have 2 minutes to go. And whenever you're ready to start, just start and I'll keep the time.
Thanks, Bernie. Yes, we're ready. Hi, everyone. I'm chairman of the board of the Shahar-Babak Copper Complex. Considering our responsibility, our mission always was to be with the community of Shahar-Babak City and knowing their problems and issues toward the company's activities. Today, we have a respected guest from the community who wants to share her experiences with us. We're here to listen her wholeheartedly.
I'm the elected representative of the deceived people of my city, Shahar-Babak. One of those people, you make them sick and kill them indirectly. But today, I've come to demand my rights from you. 40 years ago, you told us that with the arrival of the copper company, many jobs would be created for our unemployed youth. And we would become wealthy, but that wasn't the truth. We traded a piece of our city for something we had. You didn't tell us the reality. You didn't tell us that you would pollute the air and the water. Have you ever been inside the city? The people have become ill due to the air and the water pollution that you have created. Mining causes a number of the different health problems, including neurological disorder and kidney diseases for my people. Our children are under 5 have a mental deficiencies, and those who work in your company die of cancer. The average lifespan of anyone working in your company is now 35 to 40. You are not only killing our people, but you have also destroyed our planes. You have driven our animals and wildlife species to extinction. Do you have any solution for this?
Yes, we understand your concerns and really feel sorry about it. Regarding every people's concern related to this problem in Shahar-Babak City, we've considered a solution, which is advanced filtration technology. This technology could make a significant difference. Look at the success of modern scrubbers. The installation of this technology can lead to approximately 30% reduction in sulfur dioxide emissions in just 1 year. We recommend this investment in Shahar-Babak. Upon this implementation, pollution levels will decrease, leading to decline in illnesses. Additionally, with this technology in place, we can ensure that owl feeds and wildlife will be better protected from the harm. Do you want to point out any other environmental impacts that we should consider?
Well, you have only found a solution for one of our problems, but still we have issues. We have a water shortage in our city, and your company uses lots of water, especially underground water, which means that in a few years, we might not even have water to drink. One of the reasons for the destruction of some of our plains, pasture, and agricultural lands has been destroyed because of this. Did you ever think about this issue?
Well, yes, of course, the water consumption has always been a challenge for both the community, the local community, and the company. But with the water pinch technique, we hope that we can modify this problem in a very decent way. The water pinch technique has been successfully implemented in industries with high ratio water demand, such as in certain copper mining factory in Khatunabad city, leading to a 30% reduction in water use. We believe this approach could be similarly effective in Shahr Babak's copper industry. Are there any additional social challenges you're facing that we should address?
Well, you managed to solve another problem, but there are still problems. I remember when I was a child, my uncle and all my cousins work on the agricultural land. They also raise the livestock. One of my hobbies was playing with the animals. Whenever I felt down, I would go to their agricultural land, walking among the wheat fields, and that cheered me up. They earn income through trading the agricultural and livestock products like wheat, meat, and dairy with other cities. They were happy, but do you know what happened to them? After your company came, everything changed. People stopped buying their product because they thought they were contaminated due to your company's waste. After a while, he went bankrupt and died. After him, the land of livestock died too. My cousins become unemployed. It wasn't just our family, many families face this problem. How do you intend to compensate this for us?
Well, I'm really sorry for your loss and the unemployment issue in the city that you mentioned. Yes, we're aware of the consequences of our activities, and it's very important and crucial for us to act in the most democratic way we can. In order to do this, it's recommended that a local poll be held in the region every 10 years or so to decide whether to invest in the next phases of the mining project and whether to continue exploitation or not. This poll will determine the local people's opinion about the pros and cons about the continuity of extraction, as allows them to be involved in choosing the fate of themselves and their families in being affected by the benefits and harms of the copper mine exploitation. Also, we urge the implementation of a participatory decision-making process. Regular stakeholder meetings can ensure that the community concerns are addressed. Upon its implementation, pollution levels will decrease, leading to a decline in illnesses. And additionally, investing in skills training for alternative employment and entrepreneurship within the copper's industry value chain can provide sustainable economic opportunities for the affected population. Any other social or economic issues we should discuss at this point?
It's not just that. With the salaries you currently give to your employees, which are several times more than the rest of the people, the stores in the market raise the price of their product. They think we are wealthy, but someone like me, whose father doesn't work in a copper mine, we can't even meet our basic needs. Every week, we are forced to travel to the nearby cities to escape this inflation, which take 1 to 2 hours. You have created economic inequality among us. What do you want to do with this issue?
We truly understand the difficulty of these economic issues with the dear citizens. To combat this, we recommend stimulating the local economy by investing in the regional supply chain. Initiatives to encourage local production of goods and services can increase the availability of affordable products, thereby countering the inflationary trend and enhancing the quality of life for all dear residents. Beyond the immediate economic and social interventions, it's crucial to address the long-term environmental recovery of the region. The impact of copper mining on local ecosystem can be very profound. We also advocate for the establishment of a decided environmental recovery fund. This fund financed by a percentage of the copper company's profits. This fund would be directed toward forest restoration, soil rehabilitation, and cleanup of the polluted sites. Additionally, the creation of health monitoring programs would be helpful to track the well-being of the community over time, somehow ensuring that health issues related to the pollution are promptly addressed. Are there still any problems that has been neglected?
2 minutes left.
Well, considering the solutions you have mentioned, it seems that this problem will be resolved. Thank you very much for your consideration.
It was an honor to be among you and listen to your heartbreaking problems. Considering the ethical problems mentioned by you and solutions presented by Veins of Love Consulting Group, we deeply hope that our solutions would have an influence on solving the problems that people in Shahr Babak are facing. Thanks.
Okay, I think that's all the groups. Take a deep breath. This stuff is hard. And at the risk of repeating what I may have said yesterday, get ready, because when you're done with school, you're going to be doing presentations like this for the rest of your working life. It's why people will hire you. I strongly encourage you to put this event, this competition, on your resumes. It looks really good on a resume and gives the people who are reading your resume another reason to hire you as opposed to somebody else. What I like to say is that there are three parts to any presentation you give: the beginning, the middle, and the end. So that sounds kind of silly, right? But at the beginning, when you start out, tell your audience what you're going to tell them. You know more about this topic than anybody else in the room, whether it's a Zoom room or live. So bring them along the journey with you. So tell them what you're going to tell them. The middle part, tell them. Give your presentation, the issues you identified, the solutions you recommend, and then at the end, a reminder. Sort of go back to the beginning. This is what we were talking about. Here's our solution. And we strongly recommend that you do A, B, C. That the judges' minds are going to wander. Your colleagues at work, their minds will wander. Keep them focused. Keep them where you want them to be. And you'll do fine. I mean, this is really impressive. I could not have done this when I was in school. So congratulations. Have any of you done the 90-second presentation yet? That's really tough. So thank you for your time, for your hard work and preparation. I always come away from these sessions having learned a lot. So keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you very much for spending yesterday and today with us.
Pleasure.
Thanks.
Thank you, Bernie.
Okay, take care there.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.